What should individuals do to prepare for peak oil?
I've been saying this consistently now for about 4 years. Get out of debt, get out of debt, get out of debt. And why do I say that? Well, obviously now, almost the whole country understands about mortgage debt, understands about credit card debt, understands about how debt can act like a sea anchor. While you're trying to tread water, it's like a 100-pound weight around your ankle, dragging you down. Of course, it works the same way for governments too, as we're seeing now, at the state and local level, as oil prices are crippling the ability of state and local governments to give services, and the federal government as well, as they're bailing out everybody under the sun. What I've said a lot about peak oil, and what's very clear to me from a pragmatic standpoint, is as oil prices affect everything. There's 10 calories of hydrocarbon energy in every calorie of food consumed on the planet. So ipso facto, if oil prices spike, food prices spike. If there are gasoline shortages as a result of hurricanes at Gustav and Ike, what you need are not necessarily to have a plan. You need to have options. You need to be able to choose based upon a rapidly changing, a fluid situation, what you can do. Now, being out of debt gives you more freedom. If you were to have, for example, a credit card with a $5,000, $10,000 line with a zero balance, you have options to decide what to spend as needs dictate. If your house is free and clear, you have the option. It might not be a good deal, but you can borrow against the house. If you have savings, you can use the savings to make decisions as you need to on a minute-by-minute, hour-by-hour, day-by-day, week-by-week basis. That's very important. It basically works the same way for governments too. The infrastructure issues that we're facing are monumental. Now, if you deplete state treasuries, local treasuries, or the federal treasury, see, state and local governments can't print money, the federal government can. That's a big problem, and the problems always get pushed downhill. From the federal level, it's down at the mayoral level and the county supervisor level where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. There you need as much flexibility as possible. If you exhaust your financial resources, when it comes time to deal with issues that might surface around $150, $200, $250 a barrel oil, where you're cutting back services, being out of debt, being unencumbered, is the first thing that I would want or that I would recommend that anybody have.
So for a person who's just working their day-to-day job, maybe lower middle class, how would you propose they go about this getting out of debt process?
First thing you got to do is, you got to do a balance sheet. How much am I spending? What am I spending it on? How much do I have coming in? It's the basic things that your parents try to teach you when you're 12, 13, 14 years old, you get your first allowance, if that still happens. You really have to look at revenue income, revenue outflow, and you have to make choices. You have to cut back. And it is so important to save something every week. Put it aside. Get it in a place, well, hopefully where you can make, you're not going to make a lot on interest in a savings account, but you're making something. It's not shrinking. It's sitting aside and you're adding to it every week. The rainy day fund. Well, peak oil is about the biggest rainy day I've ever heard of, and its ramifications. So you really have to look at how you're living. And you know what? People are being forced to do that one way or another now. It's like the old auto mechanic said, pay me now or pay me later. Pay me for the oil change now or pay me for the overhaul if you don't change your oil in the car. So it's as much not fun as it might be to cut back on your expenses now, better do it now because you'll wind up paying a lot more when you get interest, penalties, and compound interest is a real killer. But we're rapidly seeing a point in time with the bailouts occurring in the federal government, which I predict are far from over here as we enter October of 2008. I think they're just beginning. And at some point, the Treasury is going to run dry. There isn't going to be any bailout for the taxpayer. And the taxpayer has lost all the money, will have lost all the money, that we paid into the federal government that we should need for infrastructure repair, that we should need to change energy regimes, and to adjust and to adapt. Everything, as long as I've looked at peak oil, I keep coming back to one conclusion: everything is going to be local. Every answer is going to be local, and every problem is going to be felt first at the local level. And you don't get much more local than yourself, than one person. That's about as local as it gets.